Hello, and on this video I'm going to attempt to teach you how to size an LVL using the LP Building Products LVL. So we have a house that I have drawn out, and we're going to try to figure out what size beam we're going to put right down through the center of this thing here using the chart that is given by this particular company. Now keep in mind that if you're using an LP brand LVL on the job site, you need to be using LP brand literature. So you can't size an LVL from somebody else's literature. You have to use the same product's literature on there. So in this particular case, we're going to be doing a simple span similar to this right here. And when we look at this, let's go over to the foundation. Let's go to the basement. Yeah, there we go. So in the basement, we have some information here that's given to us on how far these spans are apart. And we know how wide the house is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add a few more dimensions on here so that you can get a whole look at what's going on here, because we need to design this by the longest span. In this particular case, the longest span would be here at 41 feet 9 inches. Now you're asking me, what does this span have to do with where this beam is going? Well, if we are figuring for a beam, then basically half of the span that is from one wall to the other, and this of course would change at this point. I'm going to kind of eyeball it. There we go. And then of course here. All right, these are not very accurate, but just kind of give you an idea of what we're looking for. So in this particular case, this one right here, we could figure for 37.9 because it's going to be carrying this. Also, this one here, we could figure for the 37.9. This one here, we could figure for 33.9. And then, of course, here and here, we would have to use this number here. Well, we're not going to have about 11 different LVLs going across through here. To make things simpler, on the job site, we're going to use the longest span, and this is a transverse span, meaning that the roof would go, here would be the ridge of the roof, and it would run down on both sides. Okay, so that means that not a longitudinal, but a transverse section. So let's go over here and look at the picture that they've got here so that you kind of get an idea of what they're talking about. So the span carried is what I've been talking about right here. The span carried, 41 feet 9 inches. This beam that's going around through here is going to carry the load all the way from here to there. So let me draw that in so you can understand what I'm trying to say there. So basically, it's going to have that much room on it. It really didn't show up very good, did it? Let's see. Wide lines. Now, still not. There we go. So this beam is going to carry the load in here. All right. Half of the load is going, this half of the load is going to be transferred to the wall here, and this half to the wall over here. So we're really only, this transverse length here is going to tell us how much load, how much live load, and how much dead load we're going to have on this entire thing all the way around, if that makes sense. If not, give me a shout and I'll try to explain it to you a little bit better. So over on the chart here, we are trying to find our span carried, and in this particular case, it's 41.9. And if we'll look over here, great. I just had to pick a house that was over 40 feet, didn't I? Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to move this booger back a foot 1 foot 9 inches. There. Bam. So now we have 40 feet. Now, don't laugh at me. I fixed this so that we could use it in this particular problem. Now, if we were on a job site and this particular thing would come up, we wouldn't be able to use this chart at all. We'd have to call an engineer and have him do that. So my mistake here kind of helped out a little bit because I can explain as to what's going on here a little bit. So in this, we have 40 feet. So our span carried is 40 feet. Now remember that we have, go to our picture here, we have a simple span versus a continuous span. So the simple span means that we're running into the side of it. So we've kind of been looking at this chart here, but that's the wrong chart. We need to come down here to the simple span chart and look at 40 feet down through here, because the continuous span would mean that the I-joists would actually set on top of the beam, and that's not what I had envisioned when I first done this. So ours is going to be a simple span floor joist. So we're not going to use the continuous span. We're going to use the simple span. Now, also, once we figure out where our span carried is, which in this case it's 40 feet, so we're going to be using this column here, and we need to find out what our span is, span that's going to be carried. Well, I have 14, 5.5 to the outside here, but then if over here, look, I've got 14 and 3/8, 14 and 3/8, and then so forth and so forth and so forth. I need to use the bigger of the two numbers. All right, so I'm going to be using 14, 5.5. And if I come down here in my 40, let me just print this screen here and open it up in Paint where I can just highlight some of this stuff. Here we go. So I'm going to be using the 40-foot simple span floor joists. And again, I'm looking at 14, 5.5, which is my longest span. So I cannot use 14 because it's 14, 5.5. I'm going to have to go to 16. So I can look in here at 16, and the size of my LVL is going to be 14 inches tall, and it's going to be 5 1/4 inch wide. So I could come back over here to this particular picture, and technically there should be a line in there that tells us the center line of where this little beam is going. I'll draw that in, and then I'm going to just put me a note in here that says basically, what was it, 5 1/4. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. 5 1/4 inch by 14 inch LVL. All right, so this has been sized for the longest span carried, and the longest span of the house, which is 5.5 inches. So we've used 40 feet in this section. We've used the 14, 5.5, which bumped us up to 16 feet, and that put us at 14 inches and 5 1/4. Okay, so now we've got that size. Now we need to figure out what size of our LVLs, our I-joists are going to be. So our I-joists are going to run from one direction to another. Okay, so they're going to run in this direction here. So I'm going to put I-joists at, well, we don't know yet, so we're going to figure that out. So we have I-joist that's going to be running in this direction. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that around this way and just move this booger and get rid of that, so that I can have my I know which way they're going. All right, so they're going to be going in this direction. They're going to be running in this direction, but they're going to be either 24, 16, 12, whatever, on center this way here. So let's open up the other chart that we have here. Let me go back over to here. And this is our our I joist chart here. I'm going to enlarge this a little bit where we can see a little easier. And I'm going to go down to our tables here. Now, in this particular case, we need to find out some more information about what we're going to have in this house. So we need to figure out what kind of floor is going to be on it. We don't really know what kind of floor is going to be on it. So I'm just going to kind of pick as we go along. And we've got choices of 1930 seconds OSB nailed, 1930 seconds OSB glued and nailed. They don't give us a screw and nailed. We have 2330 seconds OSB nailed, and then we also have 2330 seconds glued and nailed. 5/8 as well in both cases, and 3/4 in both cases. Notice that, 2330 seconds is only a 30-second off from 3/4. So you got to be real careful about that. If you're using plywood that says 2330 seconds, you have to use the 2330 seconds chart, not the 3/4 inch. Even though we think of it as a nominal 3/4, most of our plywood is sold 2330 seconds rather than 3/4. So a couple other things we've got to look into is, do we have a simple span going from one side to the other? In other words, from this side all the way to this side with nothing in the middle? Or are we going to have a continuous span where we have a beam in the middle? So in this case, we're going to have a beam in the middle. Ours is going to be continuous span. I'm going to go with the 2330 seconds OSB sheathing rather than the plywood. And I'm actually going to glue and nail it, but like I say, we can't figure out screwed because it's just, they don't give us that. So we have to go with nailed, even though screwing is better. I believe that screwing is a lot better than nailing because nails can pop after a while. Even though the glue may hold the sheathing down to the floor properly, the nails can actually work up, and if you have linoleum floor, it will actually puncture the linoleum floor. So I don't even go nailed, period, at all. Okay, so a couple of things else that we have to worry about is, do we have a ceiling attached? All right, do we have OSB attached to the bottom side of our joist or our I-beams, our I-joist that's going through here, or not? In this particular case, I am not, because I'm going to go with a 10-foot high basement here. Now, if I use a suspended ceiling, I might want to go ahead and go up to this 1/2-inch gypboard just to give it a little bit more oomph into it. But in this particular case, I'm going to say that there's going to be nothing hanging at all on this ceiling. So I need to look at a couple of things here. So look at our picture that we have up here, and we have a continuous span that we're going to be using. So we're going to stay right here in the continuous span. I'm sorry, let's go down here to the glue and nailed. We're going to go to the maximum continuous span. And we have choices of 12-inch OC on center, 16, 19.2, and 24 inches on center. If we go into here, we need to find out what our longest lengths are going to be here. So if I can pull in a couple of dimension lines to find out what we actually have here, we're going to go with our longest so that everything matches. We don't have 100 different size pieces of wood on the job site. Okay, and I'm going to find out that I have 21 feet 1.5 inch right here as my longest span. I've got 18 on the other side because of this little extra little piece here. So I'm going to go 21 1.5. So if I look in here at 21 1.5 continuous span, I need to find something that's going to be 21 1.5, and I need to kind of figure out what on center spacing that I'm going to go with as well. I'm going to blow this up just a little bit. All this delay is driving me nuts here. There. Okay, so I'm going to look at these numbers in here, and I'm going to kind of, let's see, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go and print screen on this one, go back over where I can circle some of this stuff. Okay, so I'm using the 23/32 OSB glued and nailed. I have no attached ceiling. I have a continuous span, and I'm going to try to find something within a 1/16 of an inch here, or 16 inches on center rather, that will span 21 1.5. So if I come down through here, the first thing that I've got is a 23. Look how big this thing is. It's 16 inches. All right. If I keep going, do I find another one? There's 21 9. 21 9 will satisfy that. So I'm gonna highlight this one, 21 9, and that's 14 inches high. Nope, didn't want that one. I want the square one. I've done lost it. Here it is, 14 inches high. That's the first one. If I keep on going, I have 22.5, which I could use at a 14. I could use, I'm trying to stay away from 16 inches. Now let's look at here. I do have one here that is a little bit skinnier that will match 21.4, and it's 11 7/8 high. And I could also use this one here. Now, if you start at the top and work your way down, just think of this as being cheap, more expensive. So I want to try to stay at the top as much as I can because this is going to be a cheaper one. So let's put us a money signal here, and we'll put a couple of money signals down here, meaning that it's going to be more expensive the further you go down. So we want to try to stay towards the top up here. So my first one is 14 inches. Can I survive with 14 inches? A 14-inch high joist on there, or do I want to go with 11 7/8? So that's going to save me 2 inches basically on there. I could go either way, but I'll be honest with you, because this is probably a cheaper one, I think 14 inches is going to be okie dokie with me. So I'm going to copy this. No, I can't copy that name on that one, can I? Let's see if I can go over here and hit that one. Now, it was this one. I'm going to copy this name. Maybe I'm going to copy this name or not. There we go, copy. So I'm going to go back over to here, and I want to go back to my little joist thing here, and I've got home. I've got, well, it didn't. So I'm going to have to put it in by hand. So I have LPI 32 plus 14-inch high I-joists at 16 inches OC. Okay, so there's my note now. And my note is a little bit bigger than, there we go. I'm just going to get rid of that. Well, I got rid of the daggum wrong one. We'll just do this. Okay. So now I know that my I-joists are running. Sorry, my OCD is getting a little the best of me here. I know that my I-joists are running this way here, and they're going to be 16 inches on center this way. All right, so I hope that makes sense. We've sized our LVL using our maximum of 40 feet wide. We sized our I joists with our maximum span at 21 1.5. And using the LP brand LVLs and joists. Again, I can't tell you how much you just really need to make sure that you use the same brand literature when you're figuring these out as you're going to be using. Don't use somebody else's. Thanks a lot, guys. Hope this helps.